The recent killing of hostages has heightened concerns about Israel's actions in Gaza, leading to renewed demands for a truce. A number of shootings, including the accidental murder of 3 Israeli hostages, have raised worldwide concerns about the handling of the 10-week-old conflict in Gaza, prompting some of Israel's closest European allies to demand a ceasefire from the Israeli government on Sunday. Protesters in Israel are demanding that the government resume talks with the Hamas rulers of Gaza, a group that Israel has pledged to wipe off the map. When U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin visits Israel on Monday, he is expected to put pressure on the Israeli government to reduce the scale of major combat operations. Despite providing critical military and diplomatic support, Washington is becoming more concerned about civilian casualties. A large portion of northern Gaza has been leveled by the war, and thousands of innocent people have been killed. The majority of the population has been forced to flee to the southern part of the besieged territory, where they are now residing in overcrowded shelters and tent camps. Roughly 90% of Gaza's population, or around 1.9 million people, have evacuated their homes. The humanitarian aid they receive barely keeps them afloat. After aid trucks drove in through the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, dozens of desperate Palestinians surrounded them, causing some to stop. Then, they climbed aboard, pulled down boxes, and stole them. Individuals armed with masks and sticks seemed to be protecting other vehicles. According to Israel, 79 trucks entered Gaza on Sunday from Kerem Shalom, the same point where 500 trucks entered daily prior to the war. This marked the first time aid was sent directly from Israel into Gaza. Palestinian Crossings Authority spokesman Wael Abu Omar said that 120 more trucks, plus 6 trucks transporting fuel or cooking gas, entered via Rafah. Those providing aid say it isn't nearly enough. A representative from the United Nations Agency for Palestinian Refugees, Juliette Toma, stated on social media, "You cannot deliver aid under a sky full of airstrikes." The organization also estimated that over 60% of Gaza's infrastructure had been destroyed in the war. After a 4-day communications blackout, the longest of many during the war, that organizations say impede rescue and delivery operations. Telecom services in Gaza progressively resumed. The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, has declared that his country will continue to fight until the end in its quest to eradicate the Palestinian terrorist group Hamas, whose assault on southern Israel on October 7 initiated hostilities. Militants from the Palestinian cause killed over 1,200 people that day, the majority of whom were civilians, and they also took dozens of hostages. There are around 129 hostages still held captive, and Netanyahu has vowed to return them all. His anger over the hostages' accidental deaths will likely put more pressure on him to resume the negotiations with Hamas, which are mediated by Qatar, to exchange more hostages for Palestinians held in Israeli prisons. Demands a new fire-quiet policy. Sunday in Israel, French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna demanded an immediate truce to free more hostages, increase aid supplies to Gaza, and start the beginning of a political solution. According to the French Foreign Ministry, an Israeli strike on a Rafah home on Wednesday resulted in the death of an employee. The strike, which it claimed killed multiple civilians, was denounced and the Israeli authorities were asked to provide clarification. Meanwhile, the German and British foreign ministers have demanded a sustainable ceasefire, citing the tragic loss of civilian lives as the reason, according to a joint statement by German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock and British Foreign Secretary David Cameron. Israel will not win this war if its operations destroy the prospect of peaceful coexistence with Palestinians. Sunday Times, 2008, that as talks on a timeline for ending the war's most intense phase continue, the U.S. Defense Secretary is scheduled to visit Israel. Without specifying a timeline, Israeli and American officials have discussed shifting to more targeted strikes to eliminate Hamas leaders and free hostages.